Okay, we're out in the woods today, taking the dog for a walk, so I thought I'd introduce this video. Welcome to Gorilla Man's Garage. This is just across the street by the little lake here, and we're going to talk about photogrammetry. Well, not specifically photogrammetry, which is 3D modeling, kind of a process where you gather a whole bunch of pictures, images from your drone, and you put them together and you send them away and they process it and you get all kinds of 3D imagery and all this kind of stuff. Scanning is what it is. The next step down is orthomosaic mapping, surveying. Okay, so if you want to survey a roof or a project, a house, a field, a farm, acreage, whatever you want, okay? Scanning, not really scanning, but you're doing horizontal panoramic views, I guess it is, and you're putting them together and getting information. With true orthomosaic mapping, you're actually capable of getting not 3D, but a 2D version of topographical imagery, etc., etc. In surveying, you're looking at stitching all these things together, images together, and getting a survey of property so you can see all kinds of things. You can evaluate what's on the land, how big the land is, all this kind of stuff. Okay, so we're going to talk about that. Okay, this process, and it's part one of a few parts maybe, we're going to discuss how we get these images and how we can get these images from any drone. Now, the bigger companies like Pix4D and Drone Deploy and all this kind of stuff, they're very expensive in the end. There's a 14-day trial, but after that, it's sometimes like $100 a month, okay? We don't want to get into that. We want to get into something that doesn't cost us anything, or literally nothing, and we can get really good results, okay? So if you want to get into scanning, surveying, just looking at properties and having a little bit of fun with any drone, any camera drone that has decent camera, okay? So let's get into it. And we'll join you back inside in the office, and I'm going to enjoy it out here for a little while longer. And we're going to get into how we can take these images with any drone and what you need to know to take the best images, how high to fly, how far apart to fly, what's involved, the measurements, all this kind of stuff. It's going to be fun, it's going to be exciting. Let's get into it. We'll see you inside, okay? Hello and welcome to Gorilla Man's Garage. Have you ever heard the word photogrammetry, orthomosaic, survey mapping? In its simplest form, image stitching, okay? And you go up from there. We're going to discuss that and how it relates to the lesser known drones and how you can use basically any drone you have and go out and survey property and make what they call orthomosaic maps. Stay tuned. We're going to explain everything to you. Here we go. Okay, now I'm going to show you a little screen recording video I made that kind of explains everything and puts it in context on what this video is all about. It's all about a learning process and what you need to know and how you can have some fun with your drone. Maybe something you haven't thought about before. That could be very interesting, okay? So watch this first video and we'll come back after that. Photogrammetry for drones. Something you may want to consider, but right now it might be a little bit too in-depth to get into, okay? So basically photogrammetry again is taking images as scans, and from that having one of these companies down here manipulate your images and give you a scan of the resulting subject. We're not going to get into that. Here, we're going to talk about orthomosaic mapping by a drone. And this is a campus somewhere in the world, and say you wanted to do an orthomosaic map of the campus, and then frame it out, hang it in the office or in the hallway, and you'd get a really good outline picture of the campus. Other than that, we also have orthomosaic mapping, where you can do surveys of property construction sites or plants or factories or the like, okay? And it's the process of gathering pictures. Now, these are not representative images, but the idea is there that you take an abundance of images at a consistent height, uh, overlapping a consistent number of times, and putting them all together to form a cohesive image of what you're looking at. And then you can determine many things from this. Okay? That's orthomosaic mapping. Uh, the next step in orthomosaic mapping is getting textures and topographical ideas, etc., etc., etc. And some of these companies down here will do that. But first, you have to get the images. Now, all these companies and the bigger companies, they will assist you in doing that on a trial basis. Most of them, like these and these and these and these, have a 14-day trial period where you can upload your images. And images don't have to be made by the processes they have there. You can take your images from anything. And that's what we're going to do here. We're going to see how an inexpensive drone can produce things like this. We're not actually going to produce it, but we're going to go through the process of how you would do that. Then you could take those images and use one of these 14-day trials and see what the results are. There is one of them that's absolutely free, but you're not going to get a topographical result. You're going to get basically what you see here. You're going to get a stitched together map of hundreds of images into one big cohesive massive image, and you can do with that what you like. So that's what we're talking about basically. Simple surveying, orthomosaic mapping on a simple basis, and we're going to show you the tools to use to get that done. And that's with any drone, with only a few simple things that you have to input. Okay, so here we have the old way they used to survey maps. Okay, they get a plane with a camera and they take the photograph. Now you have to overlay each one, because if you don't overlay each one, it's the only way they can match up side by side images. So that overlay is very important. And generally in orthomosaic and photogrammetry, it's about 60%, 70, sometimes 80. And the higher you go, the less you have to overlap. Okay, so because you've got such a big picture. But take the best quality picture you can and a few experiments and you'll get it right. Okay, the next thing here we have is just a slight demonstration. So say you want to take a survey of this farm, for instance, okay, and you have this, you have your flight plan, you have your drone with the camera, and this is the overlap here, okay? So you've overlapped, a good 50–60%. So that's the distance between your runs, up, down, up, down. Then if you want to double show, you can go crossways, down, down. And it's a good idea to do it on an overcast day so you don't get shadows. And another way, you can let a waypoint mission do its thing and do it and turn the camera and come back and turn the camera and do it back. The better way would be to have the camera run in free mode, where it stays looking in the same direction even though it changes, okay? Just like the mouse pointer here. So that way, and it doesn't turn around. Okay? But it's up to you. Depends on what results you're looking for. Okay, so you take this and you do your mapping this way with the overlap, go up, come back, go up, and you take all your images. Okay, so that's your overlap distance. Another way to think of that is, we'll look at this one over here. This is the single flight. Now look at this. This mark here is the dead center, so that's 50%. Okay, if I go to this one here, so that's one end, that's the other. This here to there is how much of the ground I cover. So we know our overlap should be about from there to there. So if we go to the next 50% overlap, it's from here to here. Let's go over a few more. So we're going to here. That's a lot smaller. That's a lot smaller than that, okay? And then when we get to another hill, it's even tinier. So we've only got from here to here. We've missed out all this. When we go to the next one, we've missed out all this. So when you're doing your mapping and you're looking at your land you want to do, be sure you're not going over really hilly ground that will affect your field of view and your GSD, ground sampling distance, the amount of coverage of land the camera shows on one image. That's very important. If you fly too low, you won't get the overlap. If you fly too high, you may not get the detail you're looking for, and that will be explained in the next section. So that's about it. You get all your images, and you can use these to import your images and get some good results back. But next we're going to talk about a little program we've developed that makes it a lot easier to go out and plan your mission. Okay? Now it's not a mission planner, it's a calculator to determine how high you have to fly above the ground, okay? How wide your overlap has to be to get detailed information of what you're taking photos of, okay? Now just watch the cursor, I'll use this. Most programs say you go up, over, back, up, over, back. The best is to do that grid and then double grid it this way, okay? Double grid it. Okay. Sorry for the phone, and we'll get on with it to the program. Talk to you later. So yes, that's a lot to digest, isn't it? It's kind of daunting sometimes. When you think of photogrammetry and scanning and getting 3D models and all this kind of stuff, that's a little bit more than I want to get into right now, okay? Because the processing power you need to do that and the expense involved in some cases, if you want to do it on a regular basis or semi-professional or be very, very detailed, it can be very expensive, okay? So you've heard that, or you've seen that first video. Now we're going to watch another little screenshot video of the program that I developed that lets you acquire the information you need to properly plan a flight mission so that you can take these videos, okay? And then we'll come back after that. So watch closely. Here we have the GSD drone mission calculator. With this, we can calculate a successful mission plan for an orthomosaic or survey mapping flight plan. This is made in Excel, and I'm going to go through it step by step. We know before we start a mission that we have to know how high to fly, how big our images are going to be, how much ground coverage each image takes, and how much to overlap them so we know that we're getting the right number of images to create the map. There are three ways of doing it here. One is if you only know the name of the drone, select this one, like FIMI X8 Mini or HUBSAN Xeno Mini Pro. This one, if you didn't know the name but you knew the physical dimensions of the lens, it's a little more complicated, but if you knew the focal length, the height, and the width, you'd use that one. If you didn't know any of that, but you knew the horizontal field of view of the camera, you use that one. And the calculations would give you the information you need to successfully map out a mission. So let's choose by name. Here you see selected is the FIMI X8 SE 2022. It's a drop-down menu, and you can pick from whatever you like. We chose the 2022 version. It's got a 12 megabyte image, so that's 4000 by 3000, which is a 4:3 ratio. And we selected 30 meters high with an 80% overlap front and back, or side to side. With this information, it automatically knows that these are the dimensions of the lens. With all that calculated in, it tells me that the horizontal field of view is 68.38, not the 80 degrees that is advertised on the box, because drones are calculated diagonally, just like a television. Okay? With all this calculation, we know that each image covers 40.76 meters on the ground, and front to back, it covers 30.57 meters. The GSD is 1.02. This means that for every centimeter on the ground, 1.02 centimeter on the ground covers 1 pixel. Multiply that by the 4,000, you get the 40 meters. Same when you do the height, the 30 meters. Okay? The rule of thumb is divide by 10 of what you want to see on the ground, and that's a pretty good idea of what your GSD should be. So, for instance, if you wanted to see something 20 centimeters on the ground, it's 20 centimeters wide, and whatever height you fly, divide the 20 by 10, and you get 2. So a good rule of thumb would be anything less than 2 centimeters per pixel would be optimal. So if we went in here and went to 60 meters high, let's get out of that, 2.04. So we know that we're just over the 20 centimeter focus point on the ground. Okay, let's go back to 30, and it's 1.02. Now this next number down here, this is the maximum number of meters each path should be, like in this diagram here, just over 8 meters between each path if we go down. So if we come down a path, we go over this distance here, 8.15 meters, no more than 8 meters, okay? This number here is when we're traveling forward. Every time we take a picture, we can't travel more than 6 meters, because if we do, we're going to be less than the 80%. So if I change this overlap height, if I change that to 60, watch this number here change. Okay, so it's good to keep them up to 70%, 75%. That's a pretty good average. Okay, down here we have the speed. Okay, so if you want to travel 3 meters per second and take a picture every 2 seconds, you're going to travel 6 meters every 2 seconds. Okay, that's well within this, because it should be equal or less than this. Okay, so we know we can go faster or less frequent. So let's say we want to take it every 3 seconds. And most people just go every 2 seconds. There's the 12. Well, we can't do that at that. But if we go and change this to 60, we can. So we have a 60% overlap front to back. That's well within that. If we go 70, 9. So then we have to either shrink this to 2 or 3 meters per second and go 3. And that's 9. Okay, so you can manipulate it however you want. Then you know exactly how fast to set the speed of your drone. Okay, let's go back. Oh, and it does show you here the sensor size. This is 1.2, 1 over 2. Okay, that's that. Let's go back to the beginning. Now we're going to select by sensor dimensions. Sensor dimensions. You have to put in here the dimensions that you know. Sometimes that's very hard to find, but we found a lot of them. That's why in the first instance, we were able to have a drop-down menu and you can pick what you want. Same thing here, you can put in your image dimensions, your height you want, overlap, and you get these same numbers. And you can change them to whatever you want. So if we wanted 60 and 60, these would change accordingly. And we could adjust this if we wanted to go 4 meters per second. That's 8. And then we can go 12. So if we go 3, 12. We know we can go 4 meters per second to take a picture every 3 seconds for a 60% overlap at 30 meters high. If we go 60 meters high, now this number's up to 2. So 2 times 10 is 20. So you'll be focusing on something 20 centimeters wide on the ground. Okay? And remember, quality of the picture is solely dependent on the quality of the camera. And not all cameras are made equal. Okay? Let's go back again. And we're going to choose by angle. Now remember in the very first one, we said that the FIMI X8SE 2022 had a horizontal degree field of view of 68.38, and you'll notice that all these numbers are exactly the same. Oh, yeah, all the same. And we can adjust them. Okay, so if you knew that one of your drones had a horizontal field of view of 72, and it took a 4,000 by 3,000 picture, and you want to fly 30 meters high with an 80% overlap, that's your GSD, which is 43 meters, 44 meters wide. Okay, so each pixel is 1.09. Okay, now again, down here, if you don't know the horizontal field of view, you have to go back to this one and put them in. If, let's go back to the next one, if it wasn't in the drop-down list here. And if your drone is not in here, a quick email takes me a couple of minutes. I'll change it and you'll be up to date. Okay? I hope that was of an interest to you. I hope it can be useful. Once you get all this information, you can quickly go out or go into your waypoint mission and you can say, well, I know I have to travel 4 meters per second and I want to take a time-lapse photo every 3 seconds and I have to be 45 meters high to get the correct focus that I want. And if I do that, then I know that I have to be so many meters between each horizontal pass. And I know what speed to go in order to get my front overlap. So that's about everything. Play around with it, see what you think, and let me know. Thank you. So there you have it. So if you get the right information, you can go out and create a flight mission, or you can just go out and fly by yourself. You don't need a flight mission to do a waypoint mission. I know that's a contradiction of terms, but you can take your drone up and do your grid section manually, leave your camera pointing in the same direction, go around the grid and take your time-lapse photography and get the same images. Maybe not as efficient, but it can be done. So what we've learned that if we have the right information and the right plan, we can go out and take pictures of acres and acres of property, stitch them all together, and have a massive digital representation of what we're surveying. And it's great for doing building lots or factories or, as I said, campuses or parks or anything like that. And then you can superimpose them over Google and look at the maps, and you can put your representation over the map and how it's changed and look at things. And it's kind of a neat little thing to get into. But if you want to do something like a detailed roof inspection or a detailed farmer's field or a farm or whatever, you don't need really expensive equipment to do it. As long as you're taking decent photographs, you can stitch them together. Now, there's all kinds of software out there that will stitch this stuff together. And as I mentioned, one of them was called Microsoft ICE, Image Composite Editor. Now, it's not available for download from Microsoft anymore, but if you look around, you can get it. And if I can find it again, I'll put the link below in the description, okay? So there you have it. A simple way to find out the right height to fly, the right distances to fly, how much each image is actually taking at ground level, and you can put them together and have a really good representation of what you're looking at. So I thought it was a really cool idea, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you give it some trial and see what happens. I am going to go out when the weather gets a little bit better and put this into practice, okay? And I've done it a few times in the winter here, but I flew too low and all the images were too close together to being the same, because if you're taking, say, a field with a bunch of trees on it, if you fly too low, each image looks exactly the same. You get a big white patch here and a white patch there, and the images don't get meshed together. So in the future, we're going to explore this a little bit more, and we're going to have some more software to introduce, make it a little easier. There's another piece of software called QGIS, and there's all kinds of other little things involved, okay? So join me in the journey, and the next episode, I don't know when it'll be. It could be next week. We'll see how the weather goes, and we'll try and do an orthomosaic map of a couple of our lots here in the neighborhood, okay? Stay tuned. Hope you enjoyed it. Get your feet wet. It's interesting. It's very interesting, okay? See you in the next one. Bye.